The commotion of Houston traffic gradually morphed into white noise. Eventually, familiar brand names were replaced with something more intimate. Every Outback Steakhouse turning into an Alvin's Ord, and every Kroger a Quaaludes Produce. While Google Maps told me we had only ventured off 25 miles from the city, it felt as though I had stumbled upon the edge of suburbia. Something quaint. I'd been making the 40-minute trip to Los Arcos for weeks now, every day getting the privilege of aiding new families as their journey as both refugees and immigrants in inner cities. I got to experience innumerable things, but the one thing that stood out to me most was my time with a little boy named Alex, or so we'll rename him. See, Alex was a character, and there's an extensive list of adjectives I could use to describe him, but none without a caveat. See, Alex was a friendship bracelet-making connoisseur who exclusively made them for himself. He was a track star, but insisted on being piggybacked at all times. He was soft-spoken, but spoke plenty. See, Alex was many things, many paradoxes. But most of all, he was a child whose circumstances failed to parallel his potential. See, Alex grew up in a different community than I did. He grew up experiencing crime much earlier than I did. He learned about things like rationing and food stamps much before I did. Alex learned that he was different and that the world often wouldn't work his way before I did. Alex, like most kids in inner cities, is both a person of color and comes from a low-income family. In case you're unfamiliar with how America works and the history and demographics behind marginalized communities, being both a person of color and not of wealth puts you in an unfavorable position, especially within our criminal justice system. The United States has the highest incarceration rate in the world. While we make up only 5% of the world's population, we have managed to house over 22% of the world's prisoners. In fact, to put it in perspective, if you take all of America's prisoners and put them into one city, that one city has the 5th largest population out of any city in the US. Now, that doesn't mean that we commit more crime than the world, but rather it's commentary on our justice system. But you may be thinking, okay, Ananya, get to the point. What does this have to do with poverty and wealth and race? And you're right, so let's get back to that. See, recently I read a book titled Just Mercy by Bryson Stevenson. Bryan Stevenson is an author and an attorney, and in this book, Just Mercy, he follows the true story of Walter McMillan, an African-American plywood worker who was wrongfully convicted of murder. When reading this book, I came across a certain excerpt in which Stevenson wrote, "My work with the poor and the incarcerated has persuaded me that the opposite of poverty is not wealth. The opposite of poverty is justice. The closer we get to mass incarceration and extreme levels of punishment, the more I believe that it is necessary to recognize that we all need mercy. We all need justice, and perhaps we all need some measure of unmerited grace." It was this excerpt that resonated with me, and it got me thinking. The opposite of poverty is not wealth. The opposite of poverty is justice. It was this one line that repeated in my mind over and over and over again. I was convinced to fully understand both the breadth and magnitude of what this one line was saying. And here's what I learned. The United States has the highest incarceration rate in the world. African American people are incarcerated 8.3 times more than white people. Hispanic Americans are incarcerated 2.6 times more. And no, this is not a parallel to the rate in which these respective races commit crimes. African Americans are 20% more likely to serve longer sentences than their white counterparts, even when it's the same exact crime. Men born into households in the top 10% are 20 times less likely to get into prison than those in the bottom 10%. 60% of prisoners are either African American or Hispanic. See, I could go on, but I think we get the point. That point being that our justice system is distorted, both by race and by wealth. See, people of color and of low-income families have been at the face of America's prison system for years, if not decades. In America, it often feels like it's better to be rich and guilty than to be poor and innocent. Better to be white and guilty than a person of color and innocent. And why is that? Well, according to Adam Benefardo, a law professor at Drexel University, our personal biases play a disturbingly strong role in our criminal justice system. He shows that mistakes in our system are grossly common. For the most reason is because our system is based on incorrect assumptions about human behavior. We as people, and greater as an institution, judge people we deem as less than. And oftentimes, our definition encapsulates both people of color and people of poverty. And in turn, when we see these disproportionate rates of crime and punishment, we justify them. We've become so normalized that we think it's normal and fail to do more digging. But here's the reality check. It's not. I'm not here to criticize a country, nor a group of people, and even a system, but rather I'm here to talk about it. Here to talk about a system that people have a right to trust, yet can't. A system that is a reflection of our character. See, it is up to us to treat the poor, the rich, the incarcerated, the condemned, the wealthy, everyone in equality. See, when we do not keep people respect, or mercy, or justice, in turn, our system does the same. It is up to us to see these statistics and see a flaw in them. We shouldn't let race define a demographic. We shouldn't let wealth define people. But instead, we need to let our character define our system. Through my time, both with Alex and through reading, I've realized too many things about our justice system. And so I'm here to talk about it. Here to talk about how kids like Alex have to grow up experiencing crime way too young, way too close. Here to talk about how kids like Alex have to work twice as much to get even half the respect as we do. I'm here to talk about how I've realized that our justice system is not a correct representation of people and their goodness, and neither are we. And while I can't change an institution, I can change my own biases, and so should you. Everyone deserves justice. Everyone deserves mercy. And perhaps everyone deserves just some measure of unmerited grace. Thank you.